In this, our final video, we're going to take this little exercise that we've been building up and bounce it down to disk. Bounce to disk is a process whereby we render all of these tracks, be they virtual instruments or audio tracks, down to one final stereo file, and that can either be burnt to CD or converted to MP3 to be sent over the internet, or you can even load it onto an iPod or other MP3 player. So I've made a few little tweaks in our arrangement here in preparation. I've just did a little bit of equalization and I extended our last end section. But there's one little edit I want to do here that I want to do with you to show you because there's a nice cool marquee tool feature. I'm going to play the last two bars before we go down to this breakdown section.
Can you believe it?
And you remember we automated the reverb and the volume on Can You Believe It? The first step is to make a marquee selection across multiple tracks, but it's easier if I zoom in a little bit first. I want to leave the downbeat play, and from beat 2, select our tracks, and just hit M to mute it, and it automatically cuts it, and then mutes the regions that have been selected in the marquee range. And now I want to move this over, so we're going to have a little hole. And it's asking me if I want to move the automation data, because remember in our preferences we set it to ask us, so I'm going to go move. And let's see about the positioning and see if it works nicely.
Can you believe it?
I'm going to move it a bit later. Let's move it all the way to beat 2.
Can you believe it? Give me some.
Yeah, so that's a nice little effect. Now there's two more things I want to show you before we do our final bounce to disk. At the very end, I want to do a slowdown effect. So I'm going to take the fade tool and drag and create a long fade on these audio files at the end. And what we're going to do is go to the region parameter box and select, instead of fade out, we can click hold here and get slowdown. And you see it changes colors. Let me do it for each of the 3 tracks. Fade out, slow down, changes colors, and here as well. And you can do the same thing for fade ins where you can change it to a speed up, but we're not going to do that for now. So let's listen to this. Let me back it up a bit and listen to how that effect works. All right, so that's good. I'm going to leave it like that, and we're going to end our piece that way. Now I'm going to click the key command Z with nothing selected, and it's going to zoom to fit all of the regions into the viewable area of the Arrange window, and we can see an overview of our whole arrangement. Now one last thing I want to show you before we do our bounce to disk is vary speed. Suppose we find that we've done all this work ready to bounce, and you know what, we want it just a hair faster or a hair slower. Well, there's a great feature in Logic 9 called vary speed. I'm going to control click on the transport bar to customize transport, and I'm going to put on the vary speed button here and click OK, and we see this plus minus button. So with this on, it turns on vary speed, and this area here turns a kind of orange, and we can click hold here and have a bunch of options to choose from. We can have it affect speed only, or speed and pitch together, or we can have it affect MIDI regions as well, and we can show the change in how we're going to speed it up or slow it down, expressed as either a percentage or in what the resulting tempo would be, or in detuning, or in reference to an absolute tuning reference. Let's leave it at percentage for now, and with speed only, and we can increase it. So let me hit it back to the beginning, and I'll play you a little bit of this just so we hear it at the original tempo. So let's say I want to speed it up a little bit. I'm going to click, hold, and drag there, and we'll speed it up 10%. And let's hear what that sounds like now.
Saw you the other day, then I realized no one else could.
And similarly, we can slow it down a little bit. I mean, not quite that much. Let's try 11%.
Saw you the other day.
So you can have effect over the final tempo of your project, even at the very final stages like this. I'm going to turn vary speed off, and we're going to leave it at the original tempo. And we'll bounce it like that for now. Now, bouncing to disk, the first step is to make sure that everything is routed to one final stereo pair. I'm going to look at our mixer, and everything is basically going to stereo out. And on the final stereo out channel strip, we have a little button for bounce, so we can invoke the bounce dialog box and the bounce command either by pressing that button or by using the equivalent menu or key command. Under File, we have Bounce, and Command B is the standard key command for that. So, first step, very important, make sure everything that you want to be included in your bounce is unmuted, playing through, and routed to the one final stereo output. So I'm going to click the button, and now we get the bounce dialog box. So let's take a look at this now. First thing we need to do is define the bounce range. Now I have nothing selected in my range window, so it defaults to starting from the very beginning and going to the very end of our project, bar 131. You can see here it's 131 bars long, even though I don't have that much data in it. So we can manually type in and set the values here, but there's an easier way. I'm going to click cancel. The easier way is to just draw a cycle over the range that you want bounced, and the cycle range will be used to set the bounce range. So now let's go back, or I don't even need to go back. I'll just hit Command B. We don't even have to have the mixer opened. And we have that. Now you'll see it's automatically set to start at bar 2 and end at bar 43. And of course I can tweak it a little bit like that. So very important to define the bounce range. Now let's look at the bounce parameters. What format do we want to bounce to? PCM is the standard full fidelity file format. And we have the familiar options here of AIFF, Sound Designer 2, WAVE, or the Core Audio format. I'm going to leave it like that for now. What resolution do we want to bounce down to? 16-bit is the standard bit depth for CD audio, so I'm going to leave it at 16-bit. Sample rate, 44.1, is the standard CD quality rate, so I'm going to leave it like that. And we have a choice of interleaved or split stereo. I'm going to leave it at interleaved. Split stereo is good if you're moving files back and forth between Pro Tools systems and Logic, because Pro Tools reads split stereo files. And finally, we have a dithering selection here where we can choose between 3 dithering algorithms or none. And dithering is a process used to reduce the bit depth from 24 bits down to 16, where noise shaping and other various algorithms are applied rather than just chopping off the top 8 bits. We optionally can have the newly bounced file added into the project to the audio bin or imported directly into the iTunes library. We can optionally also have Logic bounce down an MP3 version, and you can set the various parameters for what resolution MP3 you want. We can also optionally have it bounce down an AAC version, and there's a few parameters to set there, and also burn directly to DVD. But for now, let's just burn it, or bounce it rather, as a regular PCM file. So I'm going to leave those default parameters. We have our range set, and we have a choice of the bounce being done in real time or offline. Real time, you hear what you're going to get. It plays through as it's bouncing, and it's great for catching little last-minute mistakes that might have slipped through. Or you can bounce offline, where it renders the file without playing it back and does it faster than a real-time process. Generally, it's faster, depending how many plugins you have. We have an Add Effect Tail checkbox, which will add some extra time at the end of the bounce range in case reverb or other effects like that are being added on. I prefer to set it manually myself, but you can do it automatically here. And bounce second cycle pass, it'll play it through once and then play it through a second time and only start bouncing on the second cycle through. And the reason for that is if there's any effects at the end of the first cycle that carry over to the beginning of the new cycle, they'll be included. So if you want to bounce with effects at the very beginning that are generated from the tail, that's the way you do it, bounce second cycle pass. But I'm going to leave those off. And finally, we have normalize options. This is a process of automatically boosting the level of the file to be a maximum of 100%. I prefer not to use this. I prefer setting the levels and any processing within the mixer. It's a good idea to add a peak limiter onto your master bus to squeeze a little bit of extra gain out of your file. I didn't do that here, but it's a good idea too. And you can also normalize for overload protection only, so not bringing it up, but just protecting against clipping. Let's leave it off for now. Now the next step, and this is very important, I see a lot of new users get confused by this, is to just name the file and make sure you know where it's being bounced to. It sounds obvious, but we're always excited to get that final bounce done. Make sure you name it and set the destination properly. It defaults to a subfolder called bounces that exists within your project folder. And in general, that's a good place to bounce it to. You know where it'll be, but you optionally can set it to be anywhere you want. But I'm going to leave it in our bounces folder in our project folder for now. And name it. I see a lot of clients who have a lot of files called output12 on their drive, and they don't know what's what. So let's call this L9E Final Mix. And then the very last stage is to actually bounce it.
Saw you the other day, then I realized no one else could make me feel this way. Asking you, hoping that somehow we could be together. Give me someone to hold tight. Someone who makes you feel so right. Give me some who message feels so right. That's right. Someone who makes you feel so right. Check it out. Hoping that my message has come through. Let me make it clear. I'm in love with you. With you. Can you believe it? Give me some. Give me someone to hold tight. Give me someone who makes it feel so right. Give me someone to hold tight. Give me someone who makes it feel so right. Give me someone to hold tight. Give me someone who makes it feel so right. Give me someone to hold tight. Give me some.
And the final step, now that it's bounced down, is for Logic to dither it down to 16 bits. There we go. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Logic 9 Explained. I'm Eli Kranzberg. I hope you've enjoyed these videos. I know I've really enjoyed putting them together for you. Have fun, God bless, and make great music.